Welcome in. Good morning. Wherever you may be. Now, you may be somewhere in England or somewhere in Europe, maybe in Asia, and it's no longer morning. So good afternoon to you. Good evening, depending on where you are watching this around the world. If you're in the States, then I know since I'm on the East Coast, it has to be the latest 11:03 in the morning. So we appreciate you hanging with us on this MLB Deeper Live Before Lock, everything that you need to know for a gigantic slate that we're going to cover as much as humanly possible. EMAC is in the house, so get your votes in, of course. Tyler's producing, and I don't even know how much time we have to BS right off the top, my friend, because of how much we have in front of us, this gigantic slate. We even had to cut back some. It was so huge today.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of slates. There's a wave of games going off at 2 o'clock Eastern. There are 3 in that one. DraftKings has a robust 8-game sort of main slate one at 4 o'clock. FanDuel said, hey, we're going to include the 7 o'clock ones in that. So they're going with 10 games. And then there's a 5-game slate starting at 7:15 tonight, anchored by the 2 7:15 games that are on Fox Saturday Baseball.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Amazing. And, normally it's like 4 or 5 games. Then we have time to kind of go through BS, exhale. Like we could get to Real Deal Prime's best Nirvana song, and we could take off the obvious ones and just go deep cuts for like an hour and thread that in there. But I'm so afraid to go off the tracks here because we have so much shit to get to.
Pearl Jam or Nirvana?
You're basically asking me frontman versus frontman here, right? Like you're asking me Eddie Vedder versus Kurt Cobain, first and foremost, right?
That's the way it's got to go.
Okay, so I have to say this. Let me preface this, EMAC, where I am in 80s, early 90s product of like New York City hip hop. So I'm in a time warp when you get into my car where you're listening to like Mobb Deep or Public Enemy or, something along those lines.
Eric
Maybe
B.
like Big, some mid 90s pop. So that's my base here. I wear this shirt because of a long story here. I would say for me personally, it's Cobain and Nirvana. For me, but I appreciate just the wide range of sound that Pearl Jam and Vedder have produced. But you've basically asked me like Kobe or LeBron or something along those lines.
And Mike B in chat has the actual answer. It's Alice in Chains.
Oh,
it's actually Alice in Chains.
See, you were setting me up this whole time only for me to look like an idiot.
Pretty much. No, I was in college when all that stuff was going on. I was in Seattle, so
wow.
We were at the epicenter of all this stuff. It was pretty crazy time. So I leaned a little bit more towards Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. I didn't really, but those Smells Like Teen Spirit, that just, you're like, what did I just hear?
Yeah. All right. So here's the bigger question then. If you're looking at, well, I guess they weren't from Seattle. I thought Stone Temple Pilots was also from Seattle, but I guess
they were kind of STP. I was thinking Temple of the Dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Compilation to some of the Seattle bands. Yeah. Stone Temple Pilots.
No, I can't throw them in Seattle. I was going to give you another Seattle thing, but no.
Sir Mix-a-Lot.
He's Seattle. Yeah. I'll give you Sir Mix-a-Lot over Macklemore. How about that?
Oh, yeah, Sir Mix-a-Lot. It's awesome.
Does Seattle claim Macklemore, or is that just like, don't mention him? Please don't mention him.
I'm just not a fan. I just assume he's Canadian.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. He did. He stuck out of Nickelback. That's where he came from. Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. Look at this. Just look at what Tyler has set up and what you did the great job of putting together for us ahead of time. We're jammed here. I mean, we have a ton of baseball games to get to. So let's just look overall. Is there something that maybe jumps out at you when you have such a thick slate that you want to apply? Or is there something maybe individually that you were looking at, one game that we will talk about, but you can't wait to get to, something that kind of jumps out at you overall with this huge slate we have, EMAC?
No, we have some really nice pitching options up and down the kind of, let's just call it the 4 slates that are really out there today. We also have plenty of people we can target against. We have half a dozen weather spots, though none of them should be more than a mild in-game delay at best. But as we saw last night, all depends where the clouds are. And if they sit right on top of the stadium, you can get a delay. I do remember I was at one Nationals game. It was probably about 10 years ago. It was so humid. There was not a cloud in the sky all of a sudden it started pouring rain right over the stadium, and everyone's kind of looking around at each other laughing. There were no clouds. It just happened to rain right over the stadium. It was so humid. They didn't even stop the game. It lasted about 10 minutes, and then it just stopped, whatever it was. It was like, did we really just experience that?
Right. Have you ever seen that at any time, like anything like that as far as a weather phenomenon? I went to Gettysburg College, and it's like that because so many people died during the Civil War, that battle, that the climate, the weather has been altered, like permanently altered. So you can get that where you're a mile or so away from somewhere 2 miles away, and it's like pouring and nasty. It's like this dark cloud right over Gettysburg.
Interesting. No, I was not aware of that, but that's it's always fun. Like when you see it raining in the front side of your house and not the back side, or
right.
raining up the street and not at your house. Those are always fun.
Very cool phenomenon. All right, let's jump in here. We'll start with our first game. We'll look at some pitchers and then kind of move into some stacks as well. And again, just keeping an eye on everything that we possibly have. So we'll start in Chicago, White Sox and Texas by all means. And just looking at the matchup, I saw somebody in the chat bringing up Lucas Gialito. So we have Gialito and Perez to kind of take a look at overall. I imagine that Gialito is going to get, as we can see, a ton of interest right off the jet.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense here. He's kind of priced appropriately for the matchup and for his talent level. Been a little bit up and down, but he is someone that we saw, I think it's 3 years now. He sort of changed his pitching style, had a chat with his high school coach of all things, and all of a sudden turned into a lights out pitcher once again. So that is something that he's been building off of for the last several years. Not quite the surprise that he once was, but still over his last 900 batters faced, he has a 28% strikeout rate. Walks are a touch high, but let's not complain at 8.1%. Doesn't adequate job of limiting power. I say adequate because righties do get to him sort of in that same-handed matchup. Somehow he shuts down lefties. Probably still a small enough sample size, but he does pitch, throw fast. What happens when you throw fast? Tend to get some home runs coming against you. Nothing wrong with that. Bases are usually empty. So I think he is probably the appropriate option that we want to look to here. Of the hitters that I'd be a little bit nervous about, maybe just the top of the lineup with Corey Seager on the left side, and then Adolis Garcia, decent pop for a righty-righty matchup. Same thing with Marcus Simeon. Of course, if we look at Marcus Simeon just this year, disastrous, a 1-1-1 ISO. But if we look at last year, phenomenal season, a 2.82 ISO, almost 3 times as high in righty-righty matchups. I'd like to trust his last body of work, but the fact that he only has a handful of home runs so far this year, and it took him, I think it was like a month to get his first one.
Yep.
Kind of a lost season at the moment there for Simeon. So I think this is a nice spot to look to Gialito.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Nate Rojas, Harrisburg and Gettysburg, a little far away. So I know you're from Harrisburg, but check the map in case you forgot the distance between where you live and where I was talking about. All right, so let's look now. Is it just Gialito that you're attacking here, or are you, we have projected it wise, and again, this is going to be that turbo slate here for DK. So you don't have much to work with, and clearly the only guy that's not going to be measuring any type of projections for us is going to be Chichi at the bottom. So if it's Perez, we're looking at a 32% or so, the ownership there as well. There's going to be some attackability, if you will, on Perez. A little bit less, I think, than you're going to get with Gialito.
Yeah, and so when we look at Perez, the key thing with him is he has a little bit more ground ball. Now we're going to talk about a ground ball specialist for the next slate in Framber Valdez that puts Perez to shame. But Perez, generally a pitcher that doesn't get blown up. You're always thinking, I'm going to take hitters against this guy. Now his launch angle is about 10%. When we talk about Framber, his is -5 over his last 1,000 batters. So meaning it just going straight into the ground. Perez doesn't allow a ton of home runs, but he does allow gappers and stuff. So as long as he doesn't have anybody on base, which usually the bases are relatively clean for him because he has nearly a 50% ground ball rate dating back over across his last 750 batters faced approximately. So he's someone that I think we want to selectively go after with. I think you can look at Jose Abreu. I think you can look at Luis Robert. I think you can consider Vaughn, Pollock, Hard to say you want a full stack against this guy. He rarely gives up more than 4 earned runs, which is what you're really going to need in this situation to make some noise. But I think that going against him with a complimentary 2 or 3 man stack, nothing wrong with that at all. Hope you get the hit sequencing with your guys on base, and then your guys are knocking him in for that extra synergy.
All right. So on the flip side here, we have a little bit of negative leverage. And again, I mean, we're talking about what, 6 teams total on this mini 3-game slate. So you're going to get what you can and kind of work around it. It's not killer by any means, that little negative leverage you're going to getting to the White Sox stack. Maybe a little bit more breathing room, although it's probably on that just negative side of the flat end for Texas. So this is more about interest. They're both pretty much similar as far as where we have them, EMAC, projected to be top stacks.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. On these 3-game slates, especially, and I mostly play on DraftKings because I like the 2-pitcher option.
Right.
I believe that's another decision point. It makes things interesting. With just 3 teams in our player pool, that just means 6 pitchers, and we've got to play 2 of them. You're going to take some hitters against your guys. So I like to play 150, 250 lineups. So I will be using Fantasy Cruncher. On this slate, I'll probably make about 80 to 120 lineups, but I do a couple things. One, I'll allow up to 2 hitters going against my pitchers. No issue with that. It's just a differentiation thing. I have zero problem with that. Is it perfectly optimal? No, but you don't have to be perfect to win in baseball, right? It's a sport rooted in failure. You need to survive the variance. You need to capitalize on mistakes made by the field, or the field coalescing around too much of something. I'm not seeing a lot of that in this slate. So sort of for me to combat that, because I'm not really liking where a lot of the leverage opportunities are, because I think everybody's kind of about the same-ish when you look at the quality of offense versus the quality of pitchers. It's all kind of like neutralizing itself. The better offenses against the better pitchers, et cetera. So for me, here's a couple tricks I do. So I'll use the setting of allowing 2 hitters against one of my pitchers. I also have no issues with not using all of the salary cap. On the larger slate, I'll use 49,000 as my salary floor. For this, what I will do is I'll run a set of 50 or so crunches with no limits and a 49,000 cap. I want to see where the cutoff is with the points threshold. Then I'll turn around and just run it unencumbered without anything. And then I'll run one other set with a few tweaks in it, figure out what I want my points threshold to be. And then I'll remove the salary threshold. So while you usually want to spend all of your money because there's always better hitters, that's not the case when you get a mix of pitching like we have today. So what you're going to do is allow yourself to have some lineups where it's 44,000 of your 50,000 salary cap. That will give you the differentiation. And that's where you can find the leverage on some of these. I had a slate last week where it was a 3-game slate. Work got in the way in the afternoon. So I only played the final 2. 8X'd my lineup.
Wow.
8X, because I just ran with it.
Yep.
And I was showing Terry, and the same thing had happened the day before. I just had all the leverage going the other direction. I just didn't care what the top stacks or anything was. I said, just compile me some stuff. Lucked into it, but that's carried me for this month, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I went from a 1-month sort of slow decline losing streak to making that up, and then some on those. So it's one of those where you have to embrace that. The volatility, you're not going to win every day in baseball. You're probably going to profit 2 times a week, and you hope one of them is like 4, 5, 6X.
All right. So with that said, Shane Baz is going to have the most amount of leverage on this turbo slate. You brought it up. So he's got the most amount of Hunter Green. We'll talk about him. You could work him there. Chi-Chi, as low as we have him projected, and those are the next 2 pitchers we have in this Rays Twins game. But even with Gonzalez, there's closer to a 1-to-1 for where we have him ranked as the top 2 in this turbo slate to where his ownership is. So you're not getting any real wiggle room with that. You're just countering a lot of ownership, if you will, but you're not gaining a ton of leverage per se. The other guy, 22 debut. Maybe you can get behind this. Maybe.
So let's look. Baz was pitching for the Durham Bulls. He made 5 appearances. His first one was about 3 weeks ago. He had 24 pitches, 47 pitches, 56 pitches, 79 pitches just 6 days ago playing the Nashville Sounds. He had 10 strikeouts in that game. Baz is going to be good, but what do we know about Tampa Bay? What do they do with their pitchers? They usually do not let them go a third time through the lineup. Now, I don't think Baz is going to have enough of a pitch count to get there. What does he have? Career-wise, 5 or 6 total appearances, I think, is what he had last year. So he doesn't have a ton at the major league level. I'm okay with him, but he's someone I'd rather come in below where the field is if they're coalescing on that. Doesn't mean that I'm saying stack that other team, but this is one of those slates where it's like you'll play 35% cap across all your pitchers and then hope you have the right mix of hitters and the right 2 pitchers that allow you to just race ahead of everybody. That's an approach I've started to take more and more over the years on these short slates, particularly the Saturday morning slates.
Yeah, and it definitely helps when you put it that way, because with Gonzalez, it's just a matter of how much risk you're going to take. Yes. If at all. I mean, are you getting to him at all? Let's start there. I mean, he's only getting about.
So I will set my cap at 20% for him.
Of the 4.2%.
Yes. So, and I figure I will probably get there. Does that mean what are the odds of me saying Chichi Rodriguez instead of Chichi Gonzalez?
Probably better odds than Gonzalez clearing the slate. I can tell you that.
So the thing we want to remember about Gonzalez is he suffered by pitching in Texas before the new ballpark. Then he went to Coors. Had to deal with that. He's not the best pitcher by any stretch. He's 30 years old now. He's at this point, I guess the best we could really hope for is kind of an innings eater, which is not an insult, but he's barely hanging into that category, and he's slipping into the bad pitching category. So last Friday, he made his debut for the Twins. He got knocked around a little bit by the Blue Jays, gave up a pair of home runs. Had only 1 strikeout, managed 45 pitches across 3 innings. I would be shocked if he gets to the 4th inning today. The Minnesota relievers, kind of a motley crew, shouldn't scare anybody away. But, you look to power lefties, Ji-Min Choi, Brent Phillips. You got Randy Arozarena from the right side for a full stack working switch hitter, Francisco Mejia or Kevin Kiermaier. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take Gonzalez here. I expect him to go 3-ish innings. As long as he does not get negative numbers, one of our 6 pitchers is going to get hit hard. That seems to be all the way how it all works. If I have him and he doesn't, I'll be ahead of the field, likely whomever goes negative or has a single-digit fantasy performance that's in a not expected area, then I'll be below the field on that. That gives me the leverage here, and then it all comes down to fingers crossed we got the bats. Maybe I end up with the home run against Gonzalez in those same lineups where I have him, and we're off to the races there.
Well, that's a good place too to kind of transition to the bats here, because Tampa is going to be right there at the top. Clearly, you're going to have more of a 1-to-1 ratio as far as where ownership is and where we have Minnesota projected. Alex has him kind of right there above Texas and Cincy as far as a top stack. So look, we talked about this. It's going to be the theme until we get through this 3-game slate here, where you kind of just have to take what you have in front of you. And maybe it's a matter of capping Tampa Bay at a lower number, or just dealing with that 1-to-1 and not needing to cap, maybe even being a little over to Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue at all. Big improvement for Tampa Bay not having to be in Tropicana Field. Kind of some no-name-ish players here. Randy, besides Randy Arozarena, I miss having Terry say Randy Arozarena, or however he does with his lovely.
I can't say it like him, so don't look for me to do
his
that.
Pronunciation. Yes. So those would be, him and Choi would be the guys you look to. But you can still look to. We just got that lineup. Kevin Kiermaier, 3,300 at the top. Manny Margot. Okay power if he ever makes contact against righties. He's much better against lefties, but he should see quite a few at bats. Let's quickly look at the Minnesota bullpen here. Let me call that up. So I'm going to see how many lefties they have. They just have 2. Caleb Thielbar, he has not pitched since Wednesday. And then Giovanni Moron, he pitched 2 days ago. So their lefties are fresh. Everybody else is a righty. So, that bodes well for Ji-Min Choi, et cetera. From the left side of the plate, they're not going to lose the platoon advantage. So hard to really get excited about Manny Margot, but There we are.
All right. Hunter Green, you want to hit the Reds?
Absolutely.
Cardinals.
Absolutely.
Now, this is at St. Louis, so a little different here than it would be at Great American. You've got Adam Wainwright, Hunter Green. Talked about leverage as far as, where you can gain it here. And just updating it, looks like that has since evaporated from Hunter Green. Wainwright still. So all of these guys at the top, we talked about Gialito, and now it's Wainwright and Green as the next two guys we have projected for the top two. These guys are all dealing with negative leverage in some regard. So it's really just a matter of what you would do to cap. And again, 67.2% of Lucas Gialito is astronomical. It is a 3-game slate. We get it. Wainwright, though, you're still over 50%. Green may be, no, wait, I stand corrected. Green still does have some positive leverage based on his ownership to where we have him projected top two. So Green may be the best place to start before I continue to bury the lead here.
Sure. So the nice thing about rookie Hunter Green, he's coming off a phenomenal start. Most of us looked at the weather and said, no, thanks. That game ended up playing. He had a phenomenal outing. He has at least 6 strikeouts in his last 8 or 10 of his last 11 starts. He's averaging 11.8 strikeouts per 9 inning, which would have him 3rd in the league if he had enough innings to qualify, literally racking up the strikeouts. So what is our concern here? Well, a 2.4 home run per 9, that is a bit of an issue. He also has a fair amount of walks in his repertoire. So he's going against a tough lineup here in St. Louis. They're very competent, though they are mostly right-handed. This will be kind of a strength against strength matchup here. And, so what's worst case? Well, if Green gives up a few runs or the inevitable home run, he's second. He has allowed the second most home runs in the league so far this year, or 3rd among starters. They're all him and Eovaldi, and I forget who the other one is. They're all, though, Elicio Hernandez, who got sent down to AAA from the Marlins. So that's a little bit scary, but the strikeouts just erase so many of those mistakes. So I think Hunter Green is a decent option. I also think Adam Wainwright on the other side is perfectly fine. He's going to be 41 in a month or so. I think it's either beginning of August or beginning of September. He has, he's no longer a strikeout artiste. He did have 10 the other game, but I think he followed that up with a 1 or 2 strikeout game performance. But his curveball is still one of the best in the league. And Cincinnati, bottom 5 offense this season against righties. They're striking out 22.4% of the time. So I think you can look to Wainwright here. So, I mean, yes, our worst pitcher, as we mentioned, is Chi-Chi. He's not horrible if we think of him as a low leverage reliever type and hope he survives his 3 innings, giving up only a run or 2. So I think this is the rare, just sprinkle these pitchers across, try to have some strategy against them, and then just hope you corral the inevitable home runs that we're going to have today.
Yeah. And I think that, let's flip it there, because as much as we talk about Green and Wainwright also in St. Louis, and shout to Shane Hall as well, bringing that point up, where this game changes drastically from a pitcher's now versus what would it be a Great American, where we would target a lot more of the hitting slate. So with that said, are you looking to kind of just hang back a little bit? Look, to be fair, Cincinnati is right there, bottom projection, and you could gain some leverage if you were just countering the majority of the field here, going to a Tampa Bay and the White Sox that we talked earlier. So St. Louis, though, has some options. Cincinnati would just be a counter the field type play.
Yeah, Cincinnati, if you're trying to put your finger on who the best option is, good luck. You get your Tommy Pham in the Remember Me game. You've got Votto. You've got somehow Brandon Drury's having a breakout season. Who saw that coming? But 5,500 in a righty-righty matchup. Not really excited about him. Top of the order, TJ should be leading off. 2,400. That's about all the good we can say about him. Colin Moran, wind machine from the left side of the plate, 2,100. Not exciting against Wainwright, which is where I start to look at Wainwright as the option, just because this is such a bad offense going against him. It's hard to get excited about them. We do have that Cardinals lineup, so I think Gorman at the top with Tommy Edman, those guys are solid from the left side of the plate. Only one other, I guess Dylan Carlson's in the lineup. So Brendan Donovan, yeah, he's a lefty, but I'm not that intimidated by him. Same thing with Dylan Carlson. You get the strikeout upside there with him. So not a terrifying lineup, but we know the Cardinals can put it all together. Smart, well-run organization for a gazillion years. Must be something in the water in the Mississippi right by their stadium that keeps this happening. A little warmer there, as you mentioned, a little bit of humidity, turning into a home run haven, but not quite. We really want to see it get closer to 90 degrees and about a 65-70% humidity. Looking at it today, it's going to be in the mid 80s, about a 60% humidity. So not quite there, but it's just hitting that cusp of where you say, yep, this is going to be, the metronome has, or the pendulum has swung. It's now a hitter's park. It's just not quite what we'll see about a month from now.
Right. And what do you think it is? If it's not the water, what's the most famous cuisine from Missouri? I'm going to guess it's ribs, right? But can they do better? Can the state of Missouri do better than a slab of ribs?
Well, considering St. Louis used to be referred to as Cowtown because of all the cattle.
Yeah, and I know, like, St. Louis has its own rub, right? There's a St. Louis rub. There's a Carolina rub. Yeah, Cowtown probably come from all the cow shit.
Lest we forget they're playing in Busch Stadium, right? Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, that's true.
Budweiser, baby.
That's true. I mean, look, I'm from a city known for its cheesesteaks. Unfortunately, that's what we get reduced to, is a cheesesteak, steak and cheese. Oh, so burnt ends barbecue. Okay, barbecue. Yeah, I figured barbecue. But that's like, Nashville, same thing. I was in Nashville for 2.5 years, right? Barbecue is like an all-encompassing thing.
Yeah,
I was
but there's this hot chicken, right?
Okay.
Everybody's got something like Carolina's barbecue, but pimento, right? There's always something that
we've upset Tyler, just so you know.
No, not about the food, about the barbecue. I'm from Texas. Like, this is sacrilege and blasphemy about what there's differences in barbecue. Right. So
that's what I figured. Right. Degrees.
Right. And it's in how you prep it and how you cook it and everything. Like, I'm not a fan of St. Louis barbecue. I prefer like more Memphis style, which is different than Nashville, which is different than Mississippi, which is different than Texas. But Texas is the best overall.
No love for the Carolinas. Look, you don't like the vinegar.
Yeah, you have to give love to Carolina.
I haven't been out there. And tried it.
You have to. The Carolina dry rub, you cannot ignore. That has to be applied here. All right. Wow.
All right,
see, we did find a way to get off. I knew we would.
Prize picks.
Well,
bringing us back.
Yes, I was going to go to our 50% off, but would you rather do prize picks?
Well, I'm going to throw Hunter Green 5.5 strikeouts on prize picks. I think we take the over. Again, 10 of his 11 starts, he's gone over that. So that's something to look at.
Pardon me if I don't go ahead and bet that here in PA, since I don't have prize picks. I'm going to go ahead and tail that play if that's okay.
But if you did have prize picks, you could sign up using the promo code Awesemo to get a $100 deposit match, as well as 30 free days of Awesemo premium content.
$100, like you put $100 in, that's like book level stuff. A lot of sites will give you $25. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get $50. $100 is like what you'll get from a book. That's awesome from prize picks. Absolutely. All right. As I lock in this Hunter Green K's prop, and again, if you're on prize picks, go ahead and do that. We're always talking about our projections, right? Where Alex has something, our top stacks, and we just are constantly reminding you to not wait each day, one day a week for this stuff to be free. So what Awesemo's doing this month is awesome, right? And you have a chance right now to get 50% off as a new user for Awesemo Plus Platinum. So think about all the times that you've sat there and come on a show and thought, is today going to be the day in which Top Stacks is free? Is today going to be the day in which I can follow along with EMAC with the Top Pitchers tool because it's free and I don't have to worry about it being blocked out? Well, jump on now. Awesemo Plus Platinum. You're going to get 50% off your first month, all right? And all you need to do is use this promo code, all caps, one word, MLB Strategy Show. That's the show, MLB Strategy Show, all caps, one word. And then you can get access to everything. So it doesn't matter what show you're on, doesn't matter who you're following, from the MMA to baseball to whatever we have out there for you, you're going to get everything. And the Fantasy Cruncher's the add-on. We have to remind you so you don't hit our people up there asking what the hell happened to it. Add that in checkout. But look, 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It seems like it's too good to be true, but it's not, EMAC.
It really is almost too good to be true.
Yeah. Like you have to ask yourself, wait, what am I missing here? And that's why we're here to remind you out there, you're not missing anything. This is a legit offer. You should jump on it right now.
Anything better would be stealing. This just feels like stealing.
Right. I mean, think about it. Anything better, you would get well, I don't want to go down an analogy and upset people. Yeah, exactly. It would be stealing. All right, let's go to the next slate here. We'll start in Philadelphia, home of the cheesesteaks and the idiots who booed Santa Claus, right? That's what we're reduced to because of the food talk here. Zach Wheeler, Madison Bumgarner, good pitching matchup. Tough spot here in South Philadelphia with the weather kind of warming up. The Phillies are on fire. The bats are heating up as well. So let's look at Bumgarner first. That's kind of where I'm a little more curious about you attacking. We'll talk about Wheeler in a second here because of where we have him projected. But I don't know if it's Bumgarner, if it's the matchup, what you're looking at. But I will say this, Emac, there is a lot of leverage that you can work with if you like Madison today.
So Godspeed if you like Madison Bumgarner. If you want to hear his bona fides and positives, you check out a show with T. McBee, who believes in him. I think he's getting by on guile and luck. Terry will not dispute that. But we start to look at Bumgarner, and he's entirely different pitcher than, say, Zach Greinke, but the results are about the same. So Bumgarner no longer strikes anybody out. 6.2 per 9 is his career low. He has lucked out into a 3.64 ERA and a 1.26 whip, but that is missing a couple of unearned runs. And he has allowed 6 home runs over his last 4 starts. Now, he survived his first couple starts, first half dozen starts or so, by only giving up a couple home runs, but it seems like things have turned. It's going to be, I guess, is muggy the right word in Philadelphia today? It's not really oppressive heat, but we're looking at about a 70% humidity, 70-degree weather.
Yeah,
humid.
But it's not
hot.
It's not oppressive.
You need that magic combination that adds up to about 150.
I got to be honest, man. It's 69 where I'm sitting right now, about 10 miles north of South Philadelphia. There's a little bit of rain that's expected, which should kind of limit the heat. Humidity, you're right. But it's not oppressive. It's not like, if you're a big guy like maybe me or you, where you're just sitting outside and it's like oppressive and you just start sweating. It's not that level of humidity.
Yes. I am.
You can appreciate that, right? You and me.
I'm festively plump. It is what it is.
I didn't. It's not wrong. Right? You feel like you've got a workout if you sit outside in one of those days.
After moving from Washington State to the East Coast, I learned why I only buy dry fit shirts going forward.
Yes.
Humidity, not something I ever had to deal with till coming out here. But back to this. So I think Rhys Hoskins, Nick Castellanos, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, those, of course, are the top targets that you want. They're coming from the right side of the plate. You've got Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, both crush same-handed pitching. Bumgarner, he's never really fooled fellow lefties. He's always been, someone that could be had by other lefties, at least for solo shots, because he's not afraid to challenge them. The challenging part this day, he doesn't really have that anymore. So again, it's luck, guile, and it's fingers crossed he gets some ground balls. If I don't have his page up, but I think he's under 40% ground ball rate. I want to say it's mid 30s, which is not particularly great for him.
Wheeler, on the other hand, now again, is going to be heavily negatively leveraged. There's a price tag you're going to pay over 10K on this, but the matchup alone is just so appealing. So are you just going to cap Wheeler? I mean, we haven't projected about 43%. Are you just going to kind of cap him maybe like high 30s?
Well, how can we? He's coming off the paternity list. That means we've got the baby narrative.
Look,
so is he
my best radio show ever was following my birth of a kid.
Yeah, is he staying up all night, or is he inspired to pitch well?
Can I tell you this? And you know this, right? Like anybody who is, and I'm a new parent, so I can fully say this here. He can't wait, Emac, to get the hell out of the house, to get back to the clubhouse and hang with his boys. And if that means going out there and dominating the Arizona Diamondbacks today, book it, bank it, anything you want.
All right. So here's the fun thing. So the Diamondbacks actually decent against righties. They do have almost a 25% strikeout rate, but they have a 200 ISO. On the flip side, Wheeler's ISO essentially like a low 100 to 110 against both righties and lefties. That's across his last 1,000 batters.
Yeah.
So he should mitigate that from them. Even if they luck into a home run, an extra base hit or something, Wheeler has about a 5% walk rate. So he's usually operating without anybody on the bases. That's very helpful for if there are mistakes, they're really not going to be punished that much. And he has just enough strikeout upside himself that he can take advantage of the Diamondbacks, who I think are top 5 or 6 in strikeouts against righties, both with their projected lineup as well as with their team as a whole today.
Yeah, so stay away as much as you can from Arizona. Target a lot. By the way, speaking of prize picks, if you're out there, Rhys Hoskins over 1.5 walks and hits today is something that you want to attack. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, I'm going to put that into my card.
I already got in Hunter Green, but I got nice plus money here.
Plus walks, or do you want total bases?
I saw on Prize Picks I was only able to do hits and walks.
They also have 1.5 total bases, so it's
total bases. Just so you know, and I
doesn't count walks.
Exactly. I like walks because I think Rhys is going to be in position to be walked today as well. That just gives me one hit. That hit could be a single or it could be a bomb. So I would rather go hits and walks than total bases. If that makes sense.
And Bumgarner, low 6.8% walk rate over his last, 800 hitters. But that is, that's actually 6.2 also against righties. So Hoskins does have a 12% walk rate against lefties. So leans a little bit in Hoskins' favor there.
That's all. Just a little bit. That's all I need. All right. So pretty easy right there as far as where we have the first game on the slate. Let's move to Milwaukee, Washington. And this is a tricky one only in the sense of I have been burned by a couple of recent Patrick Corbin under Ks simply because this dude has just been left out in games to die. So you kind of have to factor that in. Eric Lauer, on the other hand, may just be a better opportunity to attack first off. And then we have the teams, similarly as we saw in this first game on the slate, Mac, where there's a pretty big gap, decent gap between projected run total. Phillies north of 5, like the Brewers, and the D-backs low 3s. Nats 3-9, but still 5-1 for the Brewers versus the Nats 3-9. So we'll keep that in the back of our mind with this pitching matchup and then get into some of the teams. So you want to start with Milwaukee with Eric Lauer at least.
So yes, we can do that. So the one thing about the Nationals, let me call up their splits. If I remember correctly, they do a good job of limiting strikeouts against lefties. Now, Eric Lauer was someone that at the beginning of the season kept popping up on Alex's recommended props that he places. This is a premium feature that's in our Discord channel. If you have the full package or if you have the betting package, he lists multiple props per day, as does Ben Rossa and Steve Buzzard combined. They usually give us about a half dozen or so. They never force them in. Some days it's 2 or 3. Some days it's half a dozen each, especially a day like today where we've got horse racing, we've got multiple sports going on. So now that I've got this up, so the projected lineup here against lefties since the beginning of last season is just a 17.4% strikeout rate. That's very, very low. Now we have seen Eric Lauer bump up his strikeouts this year. It's tailing off just a little bit, but he does do a good job, surprisingly, of striking out fellow righties. This is one where, let's see where it is on Prize Picks. I don't really Lauer. I really am not. It's 4.5.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good one to kind of. That's right on the edge. I was hoping it would be 5 or 5.5 and it would just be a complete stay away for me. But I think that's one we can look to there. We'll wait and see what actually does come out with the Nationals lineup, because there are, if Adams is in there, he strikes out a ton. Lane Thomas has been moving up in the batting order, but he has slightly above league average strikeout rates. You've got Nelson Cruz, who, doesn't always strike out, but come on, he's 42. And as much as he's probably one of my 3 favorite players in the league at this point, I still think that's going to be advantage Lauer. So if I'm leaning towards anybody in this matchup, it's going to be Lauer. We've had rain on and off all day today here in the DC metro area. It should not impact the game. Most of it's going to be out of the way in the next hour or 2, and then it comes back later tonight. This is a 4:00 start, so I don't anticipate it being anything that would be more than a delay. But one-offs maybe going against Lauer. He's probably better as an SP2. I don't think we need him as a FanDuel play since we have 10 games on that slate. But I do think that 4.5 on Prize Picks should be on our short list.
I love that.
Of what's going on. If we flip it over to the other side, did you know that the 2 most losingest pitchers in the league this season are Washington Nationals? You have Corbin with 7 losses, and then you have Yoan Adon with 10.
Oof.
Yikes. Today, Corbin's on the mound. How? He has what? Almost a 7 ERA. I haven't looked at it lately. Let's go look at that. 6.7 ERA, yet he's only given up 7 home runs. I'm not sure how that works, other than he lets everybody on base, 25 walks. That's no bueno. 53 strikeouts, still getting the occasional strikeout here. Almost 8 per 9, but the walk rate makes it a bit of a mess. He is giving up his fair share of extra base hits. They just really haven't taken the form of home runs. If I remember correctly, let me see if I can filter on this. I want to say he was one of the worst for home runs last year. Why, yes, he allowed the second most home runs in the league last year with 37. So the home runs are going to be coming. Look to all the righties today in the lineup for the Brew Crew, and I think they are worthy of maybe the number 3 stack and absolutely 2 and 3 man secondary stacks.
Yeah. Now the flip side again, it's pretty much the same scenario that you're going to lay out for Arizona. You think with Washington? Meaning, just from pitcher to stack.
Yeah. Yes. So not full-throated roar for these pitchers, but the stacks seem a little bit better.
Yeah, especially because of Corbin. Right. Okay. Just clarifying that, right? Taking advantage of that and knowing that, especially with Corbin on the hill, as you mentioned, definitely attackable. All right, so let's move then, right? I'm just making sure. I don't know why I thought that there was something else we had to in this game, but I don't think so.
No, I mean, I think we're good. I mean, you got Hunter Renfroe, Andrew McCutchen, both excellent against lefties. Those would be your first to go to. Willy Adama is should be back. I think he was dinged up, but he's played in a couple games since then. You've got Tyrone Taylor as your cheapie in a righty lefty matchup here. I think you look at 3 and 4 man. I don't know that you need to go a full 5 man here with Milwaukee, but definitely a 3 or 4 man.
All right, let's move to Miami. Braxton Garrett's going to be at the bottom there. Decent if you just want to get over that 1%, but Alex just doesn't have him projected for doing much in Houston against the Astros. The other side of it, of course, is Framber Valdez, who a lot of people are getting to. Now, he is 3rd as far as where we have him ranked on our top 2 stacks. So the 8,900 workable. I imagine there are going to be some options here. You're building your 150s where it's going to be Wheeler and Valdez, or maybe Gossman we'll talk about in a little bit as well, to where you are spending up for 2 pitchers that you can. So Valdez could be a P1 or P2 for you, depending on how you want to work him. And not a ton of negative leverage, if I can just add that either, for Valdez compared to some other guys above him.
Yeah, the nice thing about Valdez, he rarely gets blown up. He has a 70, nearly a 70, 69, nice ground ball rate over his last 900 batters faced since the beginning of last year. As I mentioned before, a -5 launch angle. That means it's literally going straight into the ground. Walks a little higher than normal. He's got about a 10% walk rate. Strikeouts a little lower than we'd like to see at 21%. That's across batters of either handedness. Mostly he faces righties, but does not allow any power. Literally no power. 106 ISO in opposite-handed matchups since the beginning of last year. So he's someone that we can look to. Good, strong chance of getting the win today. We don't really try to bank on those win points, but he should be in line for a quality start, which has him in play on FanDuel. Should be in line for a win, which is interesting a little bit. We prefer strikeouts on DraftKings, but the win it makes up for him probably not getting as many strikeouts. And then that offense behind him going against a marginal pitcher in Garrett is worthwhile. Even though Garrett is 5,100, we have 16 pitchers on this DK slate. I don't think we need to go there. If you cap him at 5, and if he lands in some of your lineups, don't get mad. But unlike Chichi, who I will be looking to on that 3-game slate.
Yep.
You say everything we said about him, we can turn right around and say about Garrett. Garrett's a little bit more talented only because he's younger, and we would anticipate him to have maybe a little bit higher career trajectory. Who knows when he runs out of talent? But 15 other pitchers I can go to. I don't really need to get there in this particular state.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Absolutely here. Now it's just a matter of how much you're going to get to Houston, victimizing Braxton Garrett. And to a lesser extent, if you think that there's any opportunity to attack the field, who is comfortable number getting to Valdez from a stack standpoint.
Yeah, going against Valdez, there's really no point in even looking at one-offs. He just doesn't allow enough power. It's really not worth it. And I'm usually a proponent of saying, yeah, try to find that leverage. He doesn't spontaneously combust on the mound. And there's many other places we can go to.
Okay. Now we need a poll here. We'll put Tennessee, Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina. Is that fair to represent the 4 biggest connotations of barbecue in this country? Is there another region or state that better represents?
I'm almost counting like San Antonio is different than.
No. Look, it's not our fault that Texas is so big. Get out of here.
I can do.
Texas is a state.
I can do 5, and we could add Mississippi.
Missouri, Mississippi. What's the difference?
They're different, Eitan. Oh, they're different.
I'm sure they are.
Virginia's feeling left out here.
Guy. It's all the same shit to me. San Antonio,
I'll throw
Houston,
Virginia
it's all the
on
same.
for you, Emac. I'll throw Virginia on for you, Emac.
Virginia? What are we doing here? Virginia's got barbecue?
Ham and peanuts. We're
okay.
bringing the sides.
Emac is back off. Virginia is back off the list.
Yeah, seriously. That's like pineapple on pizza. All right, get out of here. All right, let's move on. Houston, Miami, we're done. We'll lock that in as far as what you could do with Miami. Braves and Pirates. Look at this total on the books. Tied for the highest that we have at 9.5. So keep that in the back of your mind as we look at Zach Thompson and Charlie Morton. And it's a similar theme here where one team like the Braves, for example, has a run projection of about 5.6. The Pirates at 3.4. So similar as we've looked at basically all 3 games prior, it's going to be the home team in the Braves with a pretty big advantage in both areas here, Emac.
Zach Thompson, one of 3 Zachs pitching today. This is Zach Thompson. No K in his name, no K in his game. Go to the Braves. That is up and down the lineup. Just roll out there. He's got 19% strikeout rate across his last 500 big league matchups, a twin 150-ish ISO to hitters of either handedness. So you can look to Olsen from the left side. You can go with Riley and Acuna and Duvall from the right side. This is a good spot for the Bravos. Pittsburgh going against Morton. Morton, what is he like? He's like 38 now. A little bit of strikeouts, a little bit of a ground ball lean, but just not an overly exciting pitcher. You can mix him in because Pittsburgh is one of the more pathetic offenses this year. They really have Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, and Dan Vogelbach are really their only guys to look to against righties. If they were facing a lefty, we would throw in Chavez as well. But that's kind of it for Pittsburgh. Nothing exciting, but load up on the Atlanta bats.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're just going to go through 5 down to 1-offs here with the Braves. Any way that you can pick apart Zach tonight, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, makes sense. Charlie Morton on the other side, it's pretty much served up here as far as this matchup.
Yeah, he gets, just because of this matchup, he gets an interest as an SP2. I would not really go to him on FanDuel. There's better plays as an SP1. He just doesn't get enough strikeouts to get us all the way there.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be the struggle there overall. So this is really just a stay away for you, it sounds like, from a pitching matchup as a whole.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Probably a 10 or 15% of Morton, just functionally wherever it comes out, because I'm going to cap some of those guys in the high end. That's it.
By the way, as somebody who spent 2.5 years, close to 3, in Nashville, which is the center, right, between Memphis and Knoxville, shame on anybody. Yeah, okay, there we go. Getting a little bit more love here. It was not getting enough love. I voted Tennessee. All right, to Detroit, where they're not known for their barbecue.
Tennessee's hard, though, Eitan. Tennessee's split because Nashville barbecue is different than Memphis barbecue.
It is.
Drastically.
But neither are bad.
I mean, that's arguable. It's drier than the Sahara Desert,
and East
in my
Tennessee
opinion,
may as well be Virginia at this point.
Okay, I'll give you Knoxville as Virginia. You want that? I'll give you that. You've won that one. Congrats. Small victories. All right, let's go to Detroit, where Toronto, and I get what you're saying, Ty. Let's go to Detroit, where Toronto is a monster favorite here. Kevin Gausman on the mound. Last time he was on the hill was when Eric Lindquist refused to listen to my warnings about going after Gausman and loading up on Gausman. But here we are, and you are a much smarter Eric than the other one. So I'll just let you carry this and take it away. We also have the other side of this with Big Bo out there, who you're probably going to stay away from because we've got the Jays with such a high projected run total.
Yeah, forget about Brisky. No reason to look to him. You can all but cross him off. Leave him at 5% if you get a couple lineups, whatevs. But you're really going to want to look to the Blue Jays tonight. They were phenomenal last night. They should match up well again tonight against Brisky. So that's an easy one here. Gausman, kind of interesting. He has scuffled in his last few games, but on the whole, prior to disappointing Mr. Lindquist there, he had been racking up the strikeouts, looked like a nice get for Toronto, kind of backfilling that Robbie Ray in this one. I think we go back to him. He's a decent pitcher, gets a great matchup. And I think you also look to him in the prop market here. If I remember correctly, his props are around 5.5 for his strikeouts. Now, he has not gotten there. I think he's gotten there once in his last 4. Don't let that dissuade you. The Detroit Tigers, not fierce, not scary, more like the Motor City Kitties at this point. Gausman has a 6 strikeout on Prize Picks. That's okay. You don't have to worry about the hook. All it does is if he gets 6, they just remove it from your card. Yep. It doesn't invalidate your card. It just comes out as a no pick, and then it just moves your card down to whatever it is. So if you have a 5-play card and it moves down to a 4 and you get the 4 right, you still get 10x. So it just drops it down 1 level. So I don't worry about the ties as much there. I think he can get 7. If this was on the betting market, I wouldn't want it because I'd lose that tie, right? I'd really want it to be 5.5.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point too on Prize Picks where that push is in play, because some places it's a tie is a loss. And you lose your entire card as a result of that, just because of fine print. All right. With that said, you're not going to get much at all with Detroit either way here. And it's
Austin Meadows or Javi Baez. Those are your one-offs, and just move on.
And you're heavy on Toronto, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Top of the order: Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Teoscar, Hernandez. Now, DraftKings did a nice job with their pricing. 6,000, 5,800, 5,700, 5,100. Hell, they even have Alejandro Kirk at 5,100. That's going to make us, well, let me rephrase that. The field will still get there, but it's going to not keep them wildly 30%. It's going to keep them around 15%, which is still a lot on a slate like this. But that's something I think we still want to get over.
All right, let's move to Kansas City, because I imagine this is going to be similar as what we just laid out, but for both teams, where you're going to try and stay away from Tyler Wells, and mainly Tyler Wells, to a lesser extent Daniel Lynch, and target the offenses here, the stacks here, especially because look, we have a near 10-run projection that's pretty evenly split. The O's are at 4.9 and the Royals at 4.7.
Yep, absolutely. You want offenses here on both sides. Tyler Wells, a little bit of a ground ball pitcher, maybe still does allow power, strikes somebody out every other inning, whether he wants to or not. So he really can't erase many mistakes. Daniel Lynch on the other side, 5,400, does have a little bit more strikeout upside, but the Orioles are, I don't want to say pretty good, but they're top of the order, particularly the righties with Mancini, Hayes, Mountcastle, and Anthony Santander. Those guys are all good hitters. Everybody else is replacement level after them or sub-replacement level. So they can give fits to opposing pitchers that are subpar, kind of like Daniel Lynch is. So maybe a little SP2 for Lynch, but otherwise you're going to look to the top of the Orioles order. I think on the other side, it feels better for Kansas City kind of coming in as 3-man stacks. Maybe 4. I don't see a need to really go 5 with them. Can we even really like 5 of their hitters in the same lineup? That I'm not sure of, but it is going to be almost 90 degrees in Kansas City. We've got a 9 to an 11 mile an hour breeze going out to left center. So definitely good hitting weather for this one. Look to the offenses.
Absolutely. Anything at all that would even be worth a mention on Daniel Lynch? I mean, Wells is out, but if there's nothing on Lynch, I don't want to force it. But, sometimes you can counter a little bit, or you can just get yourself a little bit as far as some sort of insurance by, if you're getting to a lot of the Royals, maybe getting to a little Lynch. It's probably not going to work with Wells at all.
The only thing I can see with Lynch is maybe getting a little bit, because if you go with the 5-man Toronto stack, you're going to be averaging about 5,500 per bat. And I could see those lineups maybe getting to Lynch. And then you're just hoping he makes it one of the times, if he faces the top of the order twice, that one of the times is clean. And then the other times, not too dirty, right? So.
Makes sense, brother. All right, let's move then. We keep it moving here. It's good. Hit the thumbs up button, of course, if you're hanging with us. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed here, the Odds Shopper channel as well. We talk a lot about odds and betting and things, and that's where we go. We all go here for a reason. That's why we talk about it and remind you here. All right, so Cleveland now. A's are a narrow road dog on the road against the Guardians. We can look at the pitching matchup here with Zach, a third Zach, and no K in this guy, and Plesac as well. So we'll see how good you have him against the A's. And if they have a shot, Oakland, today, it would be with Frankie Montas. It's just a matter of if you think they can get to Cleveland. It's a weird game because it's not like a super low run projection that we have for both teams, kind of sitting at that 4. So this may be more about an angle as opposed to something, EMAC, that just jumps out as an obvious play.
Yeah, Plesac not completely out of play as an SP2. No need to go to him anywhere else other than DraftKings just to kind of get some of those Blue Jays bats. So he's going to be one of the SP2 considerations there. Same thing. Zach is his name. No K in his name. No K in his game. 16% strikeout rate since the beginning of last season. Does an okay job of limiting base runners. Marginal ground ball rate, marginal fly ball rate, decent pitcher. He's got the bloodlines, et cetera. But he does get a good matchup against Oakland. Now, Oakland, just non-existent power against righties. Their projected lineup, a 120 ISO. They're definitely better when they can go against lefties. They are going to put a bunch of lefties out there, but come on, Tony Kemp, Stephen Vogt, Barrera, what are we doing here at this point? I mean, Stephen Vogt still being in the league and this is like a last hurrah bringing him back to Oakland, right? Which one of the best commercials? You remember that? I believe in Stephen Vogt. That was one of the best commercials in a long time. That was like 6 or 7 years ago that commercial was out, maybe longer. Yep. That was the last time he was really a force to be reckoned with. You do have Brown batting cleanup. He does have a above average pop when he connects, 27% strikeout rate against righties. You've got the ageless wonder, Jed Lowry, the switch hitter. Okay, but those guys are nothing. Just the challenge with Plesac is you're hoping for clean innings. He's really not going to add to the strikeouts. On the other side, Frankie Montas, absolutely. I think he needs to be on the short list for our pitchers today. Definitely in the top 5 for sure. Someone you're going to want to get to. I would not be against being above the field with him. He's got about a 7% walk rate, 27% strikeout rate across his last 900 batter space. That's since the beginning of last season. Does a good job of limiting power as well. Yeah, he's going to have to survive Jose Ramirez, but so does every pitcher, regardless of if they're righties or lefties. He'll also have to deal with Josh Naylor, maybe a little bit of Andres Jimenez being a bit of a stretch, but not really. So the other guys we're looking at, like no power whatsoever. Miles Straw, Ahmed Rosario, less than a 100 ISO. The bottom of the order, Quan, Miller, Hedges, those guys are all 120 or less. Just no power in this Oakland lineup, or probably in this Cleveland lineup. So I think we can target Montas against the Guardians.
Love that. Yeah, and look, no need to drag this thing out by any means with Plesac and the Guardians. So we can hit the first game of this Rockies-Padres doubleheader, and Clevenger on the mound for San Diego, Feltner there for the Rockies in San Diego. So a different story by all means. And look, while the Rockies have a low run projection as far as what we have them at 3.2, I don't necessarily know if the stack is totally out. It's just a matter of maybe you can counter with a little bit of the field against Clevenger, but that's really where we should start, both pitchers here with this park, although the Padres are projected to get nearly 5 runs in this game.
So I think it's going to be Nick Martinez.
Oh, got it.
And Mackenzie Gore as the pitchers. They had those two on a lot of sites. It's a doubleheader today. Clevenger was also in the mix as well. So I think he's going to end up going tomorrow. But again, this is one of those where we don't always have the news at the forefront when we're doing this. What we do want to know, whomever in either of these games is taking the mound, play them. Colorado, even though weighted runs created plus is neutralized for, it takes ballpark factor out of it. They're bottom 5 on the road. They're bottom 5 against righties. There's nobody particularly terrifying in the Rockies order. Connor Joe seems to have come back to earth. Chuck Nasty getting a little bit of the nasty back, but he looked like a glorified singles hitter at points over the last couple years. CJ Crone. All right, you're in the Crone zone. He's got light tower power against anybody. Ryan McMahon, yeah, it's okay. And then you got a bunch of guys that probably shouldn't even be playing in the league. So definitely look to whomever on either slate is pitching for the Padres. So I think it's going to be Nick Martinez.
Yep.
Go ahead and pay the 8,800 on DK if it's him. Mackenzie Gore should be the nighttime starter, but we were unsure if Clevenger was the news this morning. So
now,
it's West Coast, so it's one of those. Their beat writers are just getting to the ballpark now. So.
That is true. That's a good point, right? We do have to factor in the time gap by all means. Well, what does that do for the stacks then? Because clearly when you're looking at going up against Clevenger, that's going to change. Same thing with Colorado.
Yeah, so just no part whatsoever of Colorado. However, San Diego, somewhat intriguing. Going against tonight, it should be. Yeah. I think it's going to be Freeland.
It's
going to be a disaster and a half. And then I think it was Feltner was still the one who is today. So let's pull up some of Feltner's numbers here. So this is 120 bats or batter matchups at the MLB level. 24% strikeout rate, about a 10% walk rate, a little bit higher fly ball rate than we'd like to see. Let's see, launch angle, 13.2%. That's reasonable. Not a very good outside swing rate. Allows a fair amount of contact. Does get some good first strikes. However, is still pitches behind in the account. Behind in the count. You would be delinquent if you were behind in the account, but he is behind in the count, which is no bueno when you're a pitcher. So right. He's behind in the count over half the time, even though he has a good first pitch strike rate.
That's a lot. Yeah, that usually should correlate a little better, right?
Yeah. Well, 120 batters. You're right. So there's a little bit of noise in there.
Size. I get it. Yeah. I get it. I understand that. By the way, sex spots are here. Only took a little bit. Took over an hour. Look at that.
I'm a little disappointed.
Well, maybe it's you and I. Maybe
I even showered today again before the show, and my hair is much better. It's not sticking out like it was last week, despite the shower. So.
Y'all can testify. Y'all can testify. I have been here the entire show. I got up for 2 minutes to get my DoorDash, and the sex bots came. It's like they're watching me. That was ridiculous.
It's almost as if the guy who delivered your food was ready to attack as soon as he, right? Maybe this is all correlated. DoorDash is working with the sex bots. Never know.
Meta. Never know. It's all meta these days.
It is. It is. That's right. All right, let's hit from San Diego to the Giants. 2 games left, final 10 minutes or so. And vote. Is that poll done? 62 votes. Tennessee is getting wildly disrespected here. But Texas is too big. That's the problem, E-Mac.
Yeah. Too many people, too many voters. Did Giants. You say Dodgers?
No, yes. Dodgers, Giants, Clayton Kershaw, Sammy Long. So let's start with Kershaw. And look, the projection for the Dodgers here is that they're going to win. Kershaw is going to pitch well, and the Giants are going to be limited. I don't know if you buy that narrative, but you could definitely get to a lot of Kershaw if that's the case. Probably cap him, though, based on where we have him.
Kershaw has been out for 5 weeks. So this will be his first start back. Let me see if he did a rehab assignment. So I'm neutral on him. They're not going to rush him back. A couple of the headlines are here. Dodgers want World Series. They're not going to push him. Kershaw set to return on Sunday is what they had thought here. So he's going a day earlier. Let's see, inflammation of his right shoulder joint. Oh, I'm sorry, his right SI joint, which connects the base of the spine to the hip bone.
Yeah, he's not getting anything on FanDuel.
Yeah, so he did not do a minor league rehab. So let's assume 80 pitches. He's reasonable. He's a mix and match. Probably wave him off on the FanDuel slate, which is part of the 4 o'clock slate. On DraftKings, we get him down to 10 pitchers. Not a complete write-off, but probably come in under the field here. If you are looking for the Giants to go against him, your favorites would probably be Wilmer Flores and Evan Longoria. On the other side, the Dodgers attack against Sammy Long. Long has a 10% walk rate, a 20% strikeout rate. That's against 200 major league batters, 5.6 xFIP. Launch angle is close to 17%. So he does allow some power there, particularly to righties, a 185 ISO in that one, of course, because he's a lefty. That makes sense. So you want to go with Mookie, Turner, both Turners if they're in the lineup. Will Smith, if he's behind the plate, he's fine. And then you want to play for some home runs. Muncy is still good in lefty-lefty matchups. And then Freddie Freeman as well.
Are you going to stay away from, well, the Dodgers, pardon me, the Giants. That's right. That's the right team. Giants stack becomes interesting, maybe a little appealing if what plays out with Kershaw. And look, you're not going to gain anything because Kershaw, especially on FanDuel, is non-existent. But I don't know what the San Fran stack or even mini stack to one-off appeal is with what is the anticipation of Kershaw just not getting more than 80 pitches.
Yeah, the Dodgers still have a good bullpen. This one's in San Francisco, and while the renovations have made it a little more offensive friendly, come on, it's still Clayton Kershaw. He's no longer Clayton effing Kershaw, and he's coming off a 5-week layoff.
Yeah,
but he's still one of the top 50 pitchers in the league, meaning he'd be a top 2 on any team he was on. So
okay, just had to ask. Let's hit the final.
No, these are good questions, but there's some guys that's just kind of hard to go against. You want to go do a little home run hunting? Yeah, Wilmer Flores. Otherwise, just.
All right, so let's look at the final game here. Cubbies in the Bronx. So we've got the Cubs and Yankees, and an interesting prize picks I'll save for you here that I think you can get to in this game before we get out of here. But as we talked about, the FanDuel portion, of the program. So Cubs, Yankees, if you just wanted to look at it from, Matt Swarmer versus Jordan Montgomery, we can start there and see how that trickles down to you attacking some offense.
How many years did Swarmer pitch in college? That would be 4.
4? Okay.
4. How hard is it to play 4 years in college? How hard is it to then play 6 years in the minors before getting your cup of coffee?
It's true.
28. He's made 2 starts. He's allowed just 2 runs. I think both came on solo shots, but there's a couple unearned runs in there. Not really much for the strikeouts. He basically did not even make prospect lists for the Cubs because he's just kind of aged himself out. This is probably his shot. He does look like a 1 inning and change kind of reliever, one of those nameless, faceless relievers that just is out there.
Yep.
He should not be in the starting. He should not be in the starting rotation, but this is kind of a lost season for the Cubbies. So the other thing with Swarmer, he's been very, very, very lucky with fly ball outs and the hits. Well, the hits are going to start coming on the field, but he turns 29 in September. Poor guy. Perseverance. That's excellent, but come on. This is kind of tough. So you want to look to Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton. Those guys since the beginning of last season against, righties have a 287, 228, and a 261 ISO. LeMahieu and Donaldson can be used to round out the full stacks. This will be a popular way to go, especially on DraftKings, where it's on their main slate with just 10 total teams in our player pool, but there's plenty of ways we can differentiate.
All right, so how do you want to flip that as we wind down here to look at the bats?
Flipping it a little bit for the Cubbies, you can target Jordan Montgomery. Here's how nondescript Jordan Montgomery was to me. I had to go look today and see if he had been hurt, because I do not remember rostering him this season. And I end up with like every pitcher in my player pool. And I did not remember rostering. It turns out, no, he wasn't hurt. He is just pitching incredibly nondescript.
He's not getting a ton, even on FanDuel, right? And I get it, depending on matchup cost, what have you, and the rest of the slate here, but he's barely getting like 5.5%. on a slate that has a couple of guys with at least double, if not triple, more than what we see that.
Yeah, so Montgomery does a great job of limiting walks. The strikeouts are below average, and that's what just kind of hurts him from being someone to look to in DFS. He's 23rd in the league right now with a 3 ERA. He's 14th with a 1 whip, or 1 base runner allowed per inning, but just 46 strikeouts in 59 innings. Would that qualify him to be an ace on the Washington Nationals? Yes, it would. Does it anywhere else? No, not really.
That's a great barometer, by the way. I love it, man. All right. One thing to think about before we get out of here. The Cubs are one of baseball's best teams scoring runs in the first inning on the road. Yankees are just at that 0.48 to 0.5 run per first inning average at home, but we know that they boast some big bats, especially in that top third of the lineup. So I think if you can get to Prize Picks, because you're going to lay juice on the books here, like minus 120, 125, if you can get to Prize Picks and go, yes, over the half-run first inning in the Cubs-Yankees, I would strongly suggest doing it. I'm not going to bet it because the juice and the fig are ridiculous, but I don't have to worry about that on Prize Picks, EMAC.
All right, so let's do that, and let's quickly look at one more. So in the card, I've got Hunter Green over 5.5 strikeouts, Hoskin over 1.5 hits plus walks. That was yours. Gausman over 6 strikeouts. Again, if we get the push, doesn't invalidate our card. That just comes out of the scoring and knocks you down just 1 level. That's it. So it's not a bad thing. We're going Yankees and Cubs starting pitchers allowing 1 run between them in the first inning.
I'm going right over the half.
We're taking the over. So the 2 I'm looking at now are Royals and Orioles. Is there a run in the first inning? Or we can look at total home runs. And these are always fun because you get a group. Like last night they had 4, or they've got 4 again. And if you look at, and this is the one we're going to take, and this will sign us off. Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, and Justin Turner, 4 going against Sammy Long. We need 1 home run. Now, the downside of this, if any one of those 4 is not in the lineup, this just comes out of your card.
Right.
So even if they hit a home run, if one of them doesn't start, it comes out of your card. So you always want to be a little careful. Like I'm going to lock this one card in now. I won't make any other cards with them until I know what the lineup is, because we've run into trouble with the Yankees when Gleyber Torres or somebody that they had in the card didn't play, and then the other guys hit home runs. You're like, what do you mean I don't get it?
I know, that's maddening. But
tie goes to the runner, tie goes to the user, damn it. Where's the user experience for me?
I do that one as opposed to the Orioles-Royals because the pitching matchup is so bad, you would think automatically somebody's going to score in the first inning. But both teams, including Kansas City at home, Baltimore is horrific when it comes to scoring first inning runs, no matter where they play. And Kansas City is pretty weak at home. So I would just stay away from that and play your other option, knowing that void is still in play. I like it.
There we go.
All right, at EMAC DFS. Make sure you're following at Shander Show for me. And thanks to Ty, who took Texas A&M in college baseball. That's Ty's pick of the day. So make sure you take that and add that to your card as well. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed here. Enjoy the games, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.